welcome to Virtual Pathfinder channel. This video is the first in a series of videos about portable astrophotography equipment. I have been talking about this in a previous video and now it's time to get into the details. As a short background, I can tell you about how I started my astrophotography journey using mainly photography equipment and a portable star tracker. I have previously been going along the path towards heavier telescopes with wider apertures, which in turn require more stable tripods. If you use refractor telescopes, the prices increase exponentially with aperture and the weight also increases rapidly. When telescope sizes increases, it becomes more and more cumbersome to store and set up the equipment. Finally, when it comes to optical resolution, it may not be the aperture which is the limiting factor. In many cases, it is the atmosphere which is the bottleneck. In that case, a wider aperture provides no additional details in the images. Although small equipments have limitations, there is much to gain in finding the perfect balance between the performance and the form factor of an astronomy rig. Instead of going down the rabbit hole of ever wider apertures, I now aim at building rigs for portability. I have divided the equipment into three categories: ultra lightweight, which is about 4 kilograms, 2 is the lightweight equipment, about 6 kilograms, and 3 the portable, 10 to 12 kilograms. The ultralight rig is the smallest and lightest possible equipment for advanced astrophotography. The disassembled rig should fit in a backpack with dimensions 40 x 20 x 25 centimeters. So why did I choose these dimensions? The simple answer is that I had a look at the airline cabin luggage size, and in this case I had a look at the allowed cabin luggage for the cheapest tickets for Ryanair. To be able to go to places with better viewing conditions makes portability interesting. The way airline companies price the tickets is to get their tickets to appear when travelers search for cheap tickets. Most people look for these tickets and find the luggage sizes too small and end up adding extras that eventually cost more than double the price of the original ticket. Sometimes the price difference for a return ticket is the same as buying a small telescope, so it's worth to try to build a rig that actually fits the size and weight requirements. The typical weight limit for a cabin luggage is 10 kilograms, which should include all personal items other than the astrophotography equipment as well. For that reason, I try to keep the total weight of the rig to about 4 kilograms. The small size and weight also allows for the equipment to be packed in a backpack when hiking in the mountains without adding too much size and weight. That is good since at higher altitude the atmosphere becomes clearer and those locations also tend to have less light pollution. Since a cabin bag has small dimensions, there are some serious limitations. First of all, the tripod has to be extremely small, which in turn require lightweight optics. In this rig, I use a mirrorless camera with compact mirror lenses with focal lengths about 300 to 400 millimeters. That corresponds to 600 to 800 millimeter focal lengths for a full-frame camera, which is sufficient for some planetary imaging as well as deep sky imaging. The tripod I intend to use is a Joby GorillaPod 5K, which can carry a payload of about 5 kilograms and which preferably should be stabilized in some way. It is a small tripod which can be placed either on the ground or on a table. It can even be attached to objects such as fences or other things. I will get back to my ideas about that later. The star tracker used in this case is a Vixen Polari, which only weighs about 1 kilogram. It needs to be firmly attached to the tilt head and it will carry the weight of the camera and the optics. The star tracker tracks the relative movement of celestial objects caused by Earth's rotation. With the star tracker, longer exposure imaging is possible. Finally, a word about the optics. Due to the weight limitations of the rig as well as the stability requirements for the tripod, the weight of the optics should be less than 1 kilogram. That more or less rules out the use of a telescope. I did try using my first telescope, which I bought a long time ago. That is a Celestron Travelscope 70, which weighs about 700 grams. The optical performance of that telescope is not very good. The chromatic aberration makes it more or less useless for planetary imaging. Surprisingly, it performs fairly well for imaging of the moon, and it can be used for terrestrial photography such as wildlife photography. In high contrast areas there is purple fringing, which I found could be corrected in post-processing. I will get back to that later as well. It is not a good choice for astrophotography, but it is useful in some situations. What I found to be more useful is the very compact mirror lenses, which I have used for imaging of planets and deep sky objects. These are more or less miniature catadioptric telescopes. They have pros and cons, but they are overall very compact and useful for this kind of small rigs. One advantage with these small lenses is the almost total absence of chromatic aberration. Among the downsides with these lenses is that they tend to be very dark, with aperture ratios between f6.3 and f8. That requires longer exposures, which in turn requires more precise alignment as well as tripod stability. But these limitations are the trade-off for the extreme portability of this rig. Remember, this can fit in the smallest cabin luggage for the lowest price airline tickets, while still leaving room for clothes and other things. It can also be brought high up in the mountains without breaking one's back. Despite the performance limitations of this rig, it is still a complete astronomical observatory with tracking and focal lengths similar to a small telescope. The camera and lenses can of course also be used for wildlife photography and in some cases macro photography. In the next video I will have a look at a backpack and tripod to be used for the ultralight rig. Remember to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the coming videos. Until then, have a nice day and many starry nights.